Good morning, Joe. Yeah, markets like what they heard yesterday from the Fed, but the question is whether the Fed should have been saying something the market wanted to hear. The Fed raised its inflation forecast for the year, partially or largely because of tariffs, but at the same time, the Fed's sticking to its forecast for 2 rate cuts, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell suggested the tariff impact on inflation could be, wait for it, transitory.
It can be the case that it's appropriate sometimes to look through inflation if it's going to go away quickly without action by us, if it's transitory. And that can be the case in the case of tariff inflation. I think that would depend on the tariff inflation moving through fairly quickly, and it would depend critically as well on inflation expectations being well anchored.
But what if the tariff impact will only be transitory if the Fed makes it that way with its forward guidance and its policy actions? Here's what former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh said in the Wall Street Journal about that in January. Quote, "It is the Fed's duty, designated by Congress, to ensure that changes in relative prices don't become embedded in the economy. The Fed's job is to stop second-order effects of price changes." Meanwhile, Barclays weighing in and warning, quote, "Powell's transitory rhetoric and dismissal of inflation expectations risks the Fed may be caught flat-footed, as in the pandemic." Now, Powell suggested that the Fed is already restrictive and can hold rates where they are if inflation becomes a problem. Weaker growth can offset tariff inflation. Some administration policies could lean against the price increases from tariffs, and Powell dismissed the rise in inflation expectations, even though they have been pretty sharp. The Fed could be right. Tariffs could pass through the economy without having a broader impact. But it could also be that a dovish approach makes that less likely to happen. Guys, it was a bit like the chair said, you know, I'm going to watch this movie rather than be a director of it. We're going to talk about all this and more when we're joined by Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee. That's tomorrow morning for an exclusive conversation right here on Squawk Box. Joe?